All right, hey guys, Mitch here, and I'm got a hold of a ScaleGen and Gestrument a while back, and I just want to kind of go through and show you a few things that I learned about about them since I've had them. There's the developer. I don't know how to say his last name, but from Chromatica is the one that coded it. Um, and so it's basically just a scale generator that you can play. You can just play with your fingers. It has some. You can send those MIDI. You can send them out. It has a cool thing with MIDI input. It's called direct mapping, and like default, whenever you have a MIDI controller plugged into it, when you hit the notes, which I don't have, the way I have the recording the video, I don't have the MIDI controller hooked up to my iPad, but if I did and I had the nearest pitch, it would just, whenever I played a note on my keyboard, then it would just find the nearest pitch and play that one. And that way you can, I mean, if you're trying to play something and you hit a bunch of wrong notes, you know, you can throw this in, throw a scale on it, and then you will never hit a wrong note. Another cool thing is, like here where I have a kind of a, not necessarily a scale, but a pattern, you can do direct mapping. And when you hit direct mapping, and then you can kind of do the auto, or you can, then what that'll do is every single note will just play the next pitch, or the next note in the scale. And so I can go C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F, F sharp G, A sharp, or G sharp A, all the way up the scale, and it won't play those notes. It'll just play. It will just incrementally step through the pattern, just like that. You probably can figure out what MIDI file this is. You can load in MIDI files pretty easily. You can just put them in Dropbox or whatever, and then you can open them into ScaleGen. That was the Stranger Things theme. But it's got a bunch of presets for different scales, and so you could go major. You can change the root, and so you load up a major scale, and then you say you want it in F sharp. Then you can just hit make scale, and then it'll make the scale. And it's multiple touch. And then with this, if you had the, that's one thing I did notice. Every time you load a new scale, it resets this MIDI in thing. So if you went to direct mapping and hit auto, and then you played on your keyboard, you would just go up chromatically on the keyboard, but it would play it like the scale, but you would have to play it on your keyboard chromatically. And then nearest pitch, you just go up, play whatever you want to, and if you hit a wrong note, it's just going to go to the nearest pitch in that scale. So that was that's really helpful, I guess, if you're learning, or you just, I don't know, want to bang on something. I kind of thought the direct mapping would be cool if you're trying to get, if you have a pattern and you know the pattern, you could load it up into here. And if you're trying to get record some MIDI in somewhere else, and you're trying to get the timing like just right or off just a little bit, the way you hear it in your head, and you can't get it to quite do that whenever you're, you know, manually programming it in, then you could just play it in, and then it wouldn't matter because you'd be playing you just go up the scale on your keyboard, however, at whatever speed you wanted, and it would play it in. If that makes sense. That's how I see that being used. And so, and you can bunch of different ways to make different scales. Really cool part is you can edit you can go through and edit the scale, and it'll change the notes by half cents, by 50 cents plus or minus, and then you can do tune mode, and it'll go up by individual cents. You can free line notes. So I mean, you could use it almost like a MIDI arranger, and then or a sequencer. And say you kind of like how that one sounded. Where you can go and you can select it, and then you can generate steps based on that section of scale. And then the steps will be, and then you can hit make scale, and it'll overwrite. And now, and so now that particular pattern that you had is going to just step up through the different notes all the way up. And you can change the length here if you want, if you have something short. So then, so I covered that. I had some notes, but I forgot to write them. Well, I was going to make notes, but then, yeah. So then what the cool thing is, you can export these scales to the different scale file, a scale, or you can do a MIDI. I'm not sure what Scala is. I have to research that, or just a text file. I haven't really played with those. I just do scale, and I've had a lot of fun just copying stuff to Gestrument. And so I'm gonna open back up the Stranger Things, and then if you just hit send to Gestrument, it'll copy to Gestrument and it'll open up Gestrument. Now, one thing to note when you do that, I'll show you. Imported scale Stranger Things theme to Gestrument. It don't automatically put it, and then when you play this, it's also going to be controlling ScaleGen. So I usually just close ScaleGen out. Once I get the scale that I'm working with, I usually close it out, and now I'm in Gestrument. And so it's got a little icon up here, little gear icon, and then you can pitch scale A and pitch scale B. I'll show you in a minute. It's got two different ones that you can kind of morph between, but if I go Stranger Things here, and then maybe I'll go lights there. The internal synth is on, so it's playing its internal synth. You have basically eight instruments, and you can have a different instrument on each one, and there's a whole lot of stuff. You could do a whole series of videos just exploring these little pieces right here. But each one of these can send a different MIDI channel, and so you could load up. I've had a lot of fun loading it up IM1 and on the multi-mode, and then putting up a different, a bunch of different instruments in there, and then having Gestrument control those instruments and send MIDI notes. You can get some pretty cool stuff on that. And then you can change the durations and just a whole bunch of stuff. It literally would take an hour or two just to go through each one of those, probably. And I actually emailed the developer, and I said, hey, I'm trying to figure out, trying to kind of understand, what's happening when I press this button, when I press it, and what notes. And he's like, I coded the thing, and I don't even really understand a lot of what it's doing. And he likes it that way because he gets it's something new every time. It's not necessarily set in stone what you're going to get out of it. So I thought that was funny that the developer's like, yeah, I'm the one that coded it, and I don't even really understand, everything that goes into it. But the results are really awesome. And so this is the scale morph I was talking about earlier, and so it's coincides with scale A and B, little crossfader. But I'm just gonna And then down here at the bottom, where I'm clicking off 1 through 8, those are the different sections you can mute. And so I'm just going to hold it and hit the infinity button, and that'll hold. And then as I move it, when it's within a certain range, it'll play the respective notes that it needs to. The pitch fluctuations is how much it will fluctuate the given pitch from based on the scale. And then the pulse density is kind of like how fast it'll play the notes. I mean, that's just basically a little scale, and that's just amazing to me how just you can just continue to add instruments into it and move this around, and it'll move the notes ever so slightly to be faster or slower. And you can set some, like, see how this one right here is staying down here. What is that, number 4? It's kind of staying down there, and so we can go over here and look at number 4, and see under the durations, it's what is that, whole notes. So it's whole notes, and so regardless of where you move this around, it's going to stay down here on this whole note area. And so then you can kind of and obviously these two scales kind of clash, but if you had two patterns, two different patterns that you wanted to kind of morph in between, that that were on that didn't clash like those two did, you could get some really intricate probably some patterns. And then with this right here, you can actually send so it's sending the channels out, and so you could send it into like Gadget. I played around with that too. I had Gadget. I had loaded up 8 channels on Gadget, and had enabled the advanced MIDI, and had each one of these sending to a different channel, and just played around with that, and it'll record every note that you play. And so you could do stuff like that to build some MIDI up, which is pretty cool. And then this rhythm randomness will kind of randomize the rhythm a little bit. So that's about it. I thought I had, let's see, there's some presets somewhere. Because the drums was kind of cool. Maybe I had, oh, I have that send. Where do I have that sending to? Different MIDI channel 10. Okay, so let's pull up. Because the internal synth is off. Right here, and so let's go. What did I have on channel? Let's just go program. Drums. What am I doing? Okay. And then settings, channel 10. Then done. You can turn different drum parts off and so I mean it would be it's really awesome as a drum sequencer for some cool kind of syncopated, maybe not, I don't know what the word is, maybe that would be the right syncopated, kind of just some really groovy I did figure out that sometimes it gets, when transitioning, if you kind of move it, it kind of, especially when your drums, it kind of gets a little, it feels like it gets a little off, and so maybe just tap if you're going to program drums with it.